Hello and welcome to another episode of Genealogy Quick Start. I'm Shamel Jordan, your host. Please, if you are not subscribed, take a look at that QR code, point at it, and subscribe to our newsletter where we don't send a lot. I wanted to talk to you about, I was Regina, our special guest today. I'm so excited to have Regina on here. I don't know if you knew her mom, Regina Vaughn, but she was just an amazing genealogist that I met very early in my career, very dedicated. And we're going to talk all about her during the second half of the show. Thank you, Regina, for agreeing to be our special guest. And before we get started with our episode, Regina said, Shamel, are you going to do any books on this segment? Well, Regina is going to have a special book to share with you, but this is a book that recently came to my attention. It is called The Genealogical Index to the Guide of the Microfilm Edition of Records of the Antebellum Southern Plantations from the Revolution through the Civil War. This book is incredible. You know how they say get back to the 1870 census if you are researching African American ancestors? Well, once you do that and you get your list of possible enslavers, you then want to use this book, which is a great resource that will highlight manuscripts all over the country that might have come from the plantation that you're researching. It is indexed by state, by county, by plantation name. If you have a plantation name, you might want to check and see if there are any plantation records on it. And then there is the name that we love is the surname. So this is a fantastic resource. And guess what? A lot of these records are available on Family Search. Another reason they're the king. All right, let's get to our show. We have two new quick starts for you today. One is, these guys are experts on so many things, but one of the things that they're just amazing at is newspapers. Today, they're going to have a quick start called Newspapers Open the Door. I hope that's a door. Sounds like a door we want to go through. So let us learn what is Jim and Michael talking about. And our special guest, Regina, will talk about inheriting Hampton. It's not a sprint. So we'll see what she's talking about with that quick start. Without further ado, let me bring on the number one quick starters in the world. Columnist and editor, James M. Beidler. Number one, and genealogy tip of the day, Michael John Neal. Hello, Michael. Hello, Jim.
Hello.
Good to see you, Chanel.
So, Regina's going to talk today about inheriting Hampton, an ancestor. Have you guys ever inherited anything genealogically, from your family that, you're proud of or not?
Well, given that my house came down in my family for 5 generations now, I guess I am proud of that. And also there are 7 trunks in my attic relating to family members. Some of that's good, some of that's not so
good. How about you, Michael?
I have a lot of stuff, and I can't really think of one thing that really stands out. Like Jim, I have a lot of stuff. I don't have the house, but I have a lot of stuff. And sometimes I think what she kind of hinted at, sometimes that's a burden and a curse. It's a blessing in some ways, but and people that have nothing, I feel for. I understand their frustration, but the other side of that, when you have a lot, it's a lot. And I guess it's a question of what do you keep, what do you not keep, and those kind of things are things to think about sometimes.
I've seen some of your genealogy tip of the days kind of nibbling around that, what to keep or not, and I think those resonate with a lot of people.
I think so too. Michael, you should honestly have a museum I mean, you have so much stuff. You can have a multi-floor museum. I'm serious. Every time you pull out something, it's amazing. But have you thought about making a virtual museum of your stuff?
Well, I've thought about digitizing as much as I can and putting the stories together. So that's not a museum maybe in the virtual sense that you're talking about, but images and stories that go along with those. And I think that's the thing that people can do in general with those items they're afraid that they might not be able to pass on. Your kids might not want all that stuff you've accumulated, but pictures and the stories can at least be saved in digital format. Maybe
Michael,
you're
we're
so
making a
fancy, but
digital
I'm not so
museum.
fancy. Yeah.
We are making a digital museum of what you have digitized already. I think that would be a really fun, cool
That
exercise.
is a good concept. That is a good concept. You're right.
So, everyone out there, you know what to do. I don't have to tell you this, right? Tell us where you are and tell us your genealogy groups, please, so we can announce them. Look, we have people already who said, Shamel, we know what's up. So who do we have here? First up, we have Anita Payne from Fayette County, Tennessee. Hello, Anita. Are you responsible for all of those Tennessee people opening our newsletter? Is that you? I've been trying to figure out who the Tennessee person is. It may be you. We'll see. Thank you. If it is, and if it's not, thanks for being here. Valerie Ann from Philly area Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. Thank you for being here. Paula from down the street in West Deffer. She's like J-Lo from down the block, right? Then we have Jenny Watton. The newspapers can really get you down a rabbit hole. Tell me about it, Jenny. Hello, Marilla Shepherd. Good evening. Where are you? If you're not in witness protection, it's okay. You can let us know where you are. Hi, Gwendolyn Anthony from AAGG. Hi, Jean from AAGG and Collegeville, PA, and Ald's Family Quest Society. And is that, oh, I don't know what GRVA. I know it's that Virginia. Jean is a genealogy junkie, just so that you know. And we have Wanda Looney down in Alabama. How are you? Oh, Marilla is AAGG. Hey, Marilla. And my mom is here. That rounds out the list of who is here. Hey, Mom. Thanks for being here. All right. So, Jim and Michael. Rosalind Green from Delaware Augs. How are you, Rosalind? Nice to see you here. So, Jim and Michael, you always come up with great quick starts. Anything dealing with newspapers are always fun. So, how are we going to be spending our evening tonight with newspapers? Newspapers open the door. Which door are we talking about here?
I think we're talking. Yes. Yeah.
The doors to the past. Okay.
Yeah,
All
and we're
right.
talking about different, records that you maybe can't get to them because of privacy restrictions, or ones that the original record's been destroyed. The nice thing about newspapers is there were so many of them, and there are no privacy restrictions on them.
Fantastic. So let us get started with our quick start. Newspapers open the door. So let's do step one, which is which record are you unable to find? So are there specific records that we can find in the newspapers?
A lot of this is going to depend upon the time period and the place. So you want to keep that's kind of our overarching. Jim talks about that a lot, and we want to remember that, and we need to, and we want to remember that particularly with newspapers and some of the concepts that we're talking about tonight, because some of these things it will depend upon the time period and the place. For me, the impetus for this whole thing was birth records that are often closed, but many of them will be. It's like there's a birth announcement for me in the paper, the day, the time, my parents, all that jazz, and those things wouldn't be put in the paper today. but nobody could get my birth certificate from the courthouse but me, in theory. But if you know the date or a little bit, you could do a search of the newspapers that are online, and you could find that date and the place and the names of at least the name of my dad is in the birth announcement. So that's just one thing. There are others as well, but you might want to think, could that have been in the newspaper? And maybe the records can't be found, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, or maybe their court records of some type that are closed, but there was a newspaper record. And just like Jim said, you can't close newspapers; they're public. So there may be a record of it there that you can access in terms of the information.
Yeah, one that I'm likely, unfortunately, never to find is from a court case from the mid 1700s where a daughter-in-law sued her father-in-law, and all that's in the official county court records is just the index entry showing these two, one versus the other. But the mid 1700s, there are not that many newspapers to do it. Mid 1800s, I guarantee you that would have been a juicy ongoing story in newspapers.
So speaking of a juicy story, I never thought this was a record. That I was trying to find a picture of the woman who wrote the book that started this whole myth about quilts being used as Underground Railroad signals. I swear she paid someone to erase her face off of the internet because I could not find her pictures. And I said, you know what? I know where to go. She couldn't erase the newspapers. So I went to the newspapers and I found her face. Woo! She had good people. All right. So many different types of record. Think about the ones that Jim and Mike talked about that you might want to find, and you want to move to step 2, which is to compile a newspaper hit list. I like this, Jim. What is this hit list all about?
Well, the main reason I call it a hit list, and the main reason I recommend this as opposed to directly going to the various free or paid newspaper database sites, is because there are always more newspapers than you think. Especially as you go back in time, especially in the 1800s. Every county seat had at least one, and many had several. Even smaller communities in a county had newspapers, and you should be trying to look at them all because yeah, sometimes they did copy off of each other, but many other times they have unique content, and what you don't find in one, you might find in another.
Right, particularly if you're looking for something with any kind of local notoriety, even countywide or regionally. You don't just want to think about that one immediate newspaper in the area. Branch out, because people like to gossip, and those things sell papers and make headlines. And so, especially if it's got any kind of drama to it, there may be a lot of papers that might have referenced it besides just the one you immediately think of.
And the reality is that there is substantial loss of newspapers. Not all of them have survived to the present day, to be microfilmed, to be digitized. So you may be unlucky enough that the exact community you're looking for, that their newspapers are gone, but 2 communities over, they may have been covering the same things. And if you have a little bit broader search, then you're going to find those things.
Can you hear Shamel?
Can you mention the number one place to go to make this hit list? Did you mention that?
I did not mention that. I was saving that.
Oh, okay. We'll save it until you wanted to save it.
No. We can say it now. It's chronicling America's list of newspapers in American libraries, and when we get to the slides, we'll show a slide of their homepage for the newspaper listing. The other one that I don't consider quite as good which I'm losing the name of. Oh my goodness, Michael, help me out here.
Well, if
The
it's not
library
quite as
house.
good, yeah, I'm not thinking what. I'm not thinking of what it is either. What I was gonna say while we're trying to think of what that was, when you're doing this hit list, get this thing called a map, particularly if it's a location you're not familiar with. You'll want to make certain you have the names of those county seats and those other outlying towns to look for in the databases that the one Jim mentioned, the one we can't remember. You know, you want to make sure you've got
and,
those locations.
and that's WorldCat. That's what I
WorldCat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything's in
WorldCat can be handy for more recent newspapers if your research is 20th century. But the Chronicling America list, that's the one better for prior to the 1970s, back to 1690 when the first American
1690.
newspaper was published.
And your library card can be a great entrance into being able to see a lot of these. It's amazing. So, okay, we've compiled our hit list from Chronicling America. And so number 3 is then to search creatively or browse by date. So that sounds like a page by page kind of thing. So talk to us about how to be creative when we search.
Well, my thought on that, and Michael can amplify, is that you never can do just one search if it's a name or even if it's a place, because newspapers are truly the rough draft of history. So there's going to be spelling mistakes, variant spellings, things like that are you're going to need to do very many searches to make sure that you find what you're looking for.
Can I quote you on that? The rough draft of history. That is so cool. Go ahead, Michael.
You made me lose my train of thought. No, I was going to add, in addition to getting clever with the spellings of names and how OCR sometimes reads those names, think about other keywords that might be in the article besides names. Sometimes we focus so much, and names matter, don't get me wrong, but the other things matter too, especially if you're looking for a John Smith or some common name. Think about other keywords that would be in the article. If he killed somebody, murder comes to mind. But if it's something a little less intense, there's going to be other words that you might want to put in there to help narrow that search. Spellings matter, getting creative with those matters, but other keywords are helpful as well.
Searching for an address if you know it. Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, town in the street and an address. Oh my gosh. I have a new search criteria. I know. Thank you. You guys are so great. All right, that's step 3. Step 4 is you're going to look out for follow-ups. What's a follow-up, newsman?
Well, a lot of times these things were not in the newspaper just once. I mean, the thing that comes to mind, continuing trial coverage that may evolve over days, or if the trial goes on and then the sentencing phase and then appeals, and just like I'm saying that some newspapers are lost, you usually get several bites at the apple on this. And so so keep looking, keep using various keywords.
Love it. And you have step 5 is to document and repeat. Let's take a look at what we have here. So this is the king queen of creating a hit list, right, Jim?
Yes, yeah. This is on Library of Congress's Chronicling America site. It's still in beta. Their website wasn't really broke, but they decided they needed to fix it. So it's still to be honest, it's still relatively new to me. But the main thing here is that you can narrow a search down to an exact city. I don't necessarily recommend that. I would often recommend that you just keep it to the county level.
Yeah.
But you can also do things like select the language. If it's German folk, like I'm usually looking at, you might want to look just for what were the German language newspapers. Especially if you're doing immigrant generation research, because the information about them, especially regarding any hometowns in Europe, is going to be spelled a whole lot more accurately in the German language newspaper than in the English one.
Nice, nice. I love the idea of searching for the home country in those papers too. Oh, what's this here?
Okay, in addition to your hit list of your papers, we got some examples of things that you might find. Some of these the records may still be extant. Sometimes they may not be extant. Other times the digital indexes of newspapers allows you to find things that you can't find because things in the courthouse aren't digitized or indexed or whatever the case may be. This is a property tax list, I think, from the very early 20th century, if memory serves. I just pulled one here. This would obviously be a lead into deed records and property records and things of that type, but just a published list of the names. If you're keeping screenshots of these for your own files, I would suggest always make certain you get the headings and the top column titles and all that good stuff, because you'll want that later. I almost didn't in the illustration. Because those
lots in the village of
Camp
Point.
Yeah, lots in the village of Camp Point. These were broken out, I think, one township at a time, because it made it easier for people back in the day to read about their neighbors if they knew where they lived, instead of having to go through the whole list.
And it
And
gives
find
this
yourself,
block number. How do you match that up?
That would be on the deed. You could use this as a segue into property tax records, which are often organized geographically. So I've got the lot and the block. In some locations, property is indexed geographically by the lot and the block. We've got this is part of the original town. So Eliza owned part of lot 3 and block 1. There was a value there. So if there's an index geographically, I would go to the original town of Camp Point, lot 3, block 1. There should be a reference there for her deed of purchase or acquisition and however it was disposed from her ownership.
Okay, so this will lead us to a deed who a deed
Exactly.
holder was. Okay. And here we have I love legal notices. Whose was this one?
This was my great-great-grandmother's baby sister when she died in her 80s. And sometimes this is a little more recent one, but earlier ones, the court records might not be extant, might not be indexed, might be more difficult to access. This does not compensate for the whole record here, but I didn't copy all the names. It lists all the heirs of this woman. There's about 30 heirs when she died in 1950 or 54, somewhere in there.
So this is a notice of a hearing to probate the will.
Probate the
in
will.
the state of Illinois, county of Hancock. Okay, and so then, and that'll lead you to the will record. Love this. All right, let's see. Who do we have? Sorry.
And here's an actual deed that's referenced in the. This is about the same time as the other one that we saw, the tax list. Today they don't always publish these quite as much, but this was very common in this era to publish, the buyer and the seller and where the property was at, the amount, because all the neighbors need to know what the amount was because it's all their business. And I've got the legal description of this. I also know that it was in the paper, whatever that was, 1906. So that would give me significant help if I do want to find the original record there. But in some locations the records have been destroyed or whatever, and the newspaper might be the only way you can access a part of that document.
Right. Very cool.
When I was growing up, my local newspaper, the Reading Eagle, every Saturday morning would have the list of wills probated the previous week. And that was great nose candy for all of us. Who was a millionaire back in the 70s, which was not as common as it is today.
But it would list, total amounts or amounts bequeathed to individuals that people would just scream today if that was in the newspaper. But, there were places where that was common to do that. Yeah.
I love this. Births, boy to Mr. and Mrs. David Lester Nelson.
And then yours truly is under. I don't know why I went to school with David. Both our father's middle names had to be in the newspaper. I'm not sure why. Our mother's names are not listed, obviously. But but this goes back to the fact that especially if somebody was adopted, maybe you have a little bit about them, a date or maybe something. The adoption records may
Oh,
be closed, but that birth, it just depends on the situation, of course. But that
yes.
birth might have been in the newspaper and the other records are closed. But just like we mentioned before, the newspapers are out. Once they're out there, they're out there. Um,
It's worth
you
a
know,
shot.
it is worth a shot. Exactly.
I'm surprised they didn't have your names in there.
It is my picture. I did not put my picture there. They also in this paper put pictures of the babies and the
Wait a
children.
minute. Are you kidding me? You
I
have
am
your
not
baby
kidding you.
picture in the paper and you
There
didn't
was a
share it
baby.
with us?
I did not share that. Maybe later. But there's there's a picture of me as an infant about maybe a month later, and the other boy was 2 days older than me. His picture's in there. There was a time where that was in my hometown paper that was done on a regular basis.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and here we have Matilda Tilly Balthaser, who was a mystery to me when I was growing up. This is on the old graveyard of where I was the church of where I was an eighth generation member. And every Memorial Day, my mom and I would hike to the top of this old graveyard, and we'd always go by Tilly Balthaser. Now she was already supposedly 110 when I was growing up, and I said, "Oh, that Tilly, she's still moving on." And my mom would say, "Oh, she probably remarried, moved to Florida, and they just didn't bury her here." Well, much later, I actually found out in the newspaper that the estate record of her, and the reality is she had virtually no money when she died, and I'm sure that's why nobody sprung to fill in the date of death
Oh,
for her.
wow.
She actually died in the 1880s, so she even predeceased this husband of hers. So
You thought Kid Tilly was still kicking.
it's still kicking.
Go Tilly. I love that.
Another example of something that would be in the paper, but in Illinois, these records are closed due to state statute. But 11 individuals were sent to Bartonville. That was the state mental hospital at the time. This was 1907. It indicates the names of the 11 patients. There's an inquiry about their sanity that's also mentioned. The names of the doctors are mentioned. One of whom is my double great grandfather. I think he's listed there in part of it that I cropped out. But that's a record that some of you might have trouble accessing some of those things, but there might have been some reference to that in the newspaper.
They definitely told your business back in the
They
day.
did, yeah.
I wonder how did they stop, how did they stop them from doing that? Because wow, that's embarrassing, right? So I love these. So Michael, back to the property and lot number. So is there an easy way to figure out? I get that that's going to be on the deed, but is there an easy way to figure out where that might be on a map once you find them in the newspaper? Like I know it'll help you
You
to
would
get
have
to a deed.
You would have to get a city plat that showed the subdivisions and the lots and the blocks. The county recorder would have the original plat. You might find a plat book or an atlas that might have some of that as well. For that town, I know
Okay.
there's some plat books from the early mid 20th century that has a layout of the town and shows where all the lots and the blocks are at.
Okay, cool, cool. Thank you. I love that quick start. Let's see what the steps were. Newspapers, open the door. Step one, think about which record you're unable to find. Step two, compile a newspaper hit list. You're going to use Chronicling America at the Library of Congress. Step three, search creatively or browse by date. Step four is to look out for follow ups. Step five is to document and repeat. That was a fun, quick start, guys. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I just want to go to Chronic America right now. I just love that site. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, let's get ready for our next episode. Give me one sec. Hello and welcome to our second quick start. Today, I have the honor of an amazing special guest. Regina Vaughn. She is a member of everything. She's a member of AAGG in Philly, OGS in Philly, as well as Asala. And without further ado, let me bring out my special guest, Regina Vaughn. Hello, Regina. How are you?
Hello, Shamel. I'm honored to be here. But my
Thank you.
president is on the line, so I have to say I'm a member of the Delaware Ox with
Oh,
Rosalind
sorry. Delaware Oggs, I'm cleaning it up. That's why
Green.
Rosalind is here. I know why she's here now. So, Regina, I asked all the special guests to share their 1 minute genealogy story, how you got, and I know it's your quick start, but if you could kind of give us a highlight of how you got started in genealogy and when did you know that you were hooked?
Okay, thank you, Shamel. Following the Roots series, my mother, who was born in Philadelphia, joined the national organization, genealogy organization, OGS, and she learned the techniques to find her people. So mom traveled the country to interview the elders, and they remembered the South because they were one generation away from slavery. And she published her findings in a book called Sankofa. Now I must tell you, I must confess, I ignored mom and her genealogy for 35 years. But I traveled in 2010 to Cameroon, West Africa, and returned the ancestors back to Mother Africa and the Atlantic Ocean. So when I retired in 2010, and later when mom was living in the house with me, I knew I was hooked when I would be up all night and mom would walk by my bedroom and say, "Oh, you're not doing genealogy, are you?" That was my marketing statement. I've been hooked since 2010 when I was transformed, transfixed, when I went to Mother Africa, Cameroon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Regina, you have a great quick start for us today, and it is called. First, let you say hi to your girls here. Hold on, we're going to show that 1 second. 1 second. I think someone else came here from AAGG, and I want to make sure that we say hi to them. And it is Lola. Hey, Lola James, and we have Marilla's here, and M. Danieli. Hello, how are you? And Janet has snuck in. How are you? All right. So, Regina is doing a quick start. Inheriting Hampton. It's not a sprint. So, Regina, what is this quick start about?
It's about how I picked up mom's genealogy she did. One thing about Hampton, he was in the census record, so that's why she was able to do it in the 80s. She was taught to go to the archives and got on the microfiche and was able to find him. And she was able to do that. And in 1986, she published her findings in this book, Sankofa. It's a Akan word from Ghana with the Sankofa bird with his beak turned backwards to Mother Africa and his feet forward. A people without knowledge of its history is like a tree without roots. Go back and fetch it.
Oh, I love that. What a blessing. Like that is the blessing that we all want to create something to leave for our family. So you are blessed to have a mom. And can you put your head to the side for a second so we can see the picture of your mom? There she is. There's Othella back there. The other way, Regina. All right, I'm gonna solo you. Stay there. Hold on. Let me solo you. There's your mom. All right. So, Regina, let's go ahead and get started with your quick start. Inheriting Hampton, it's not a sprint. And to me, it sounds like you're saying, you got a lot of stuff, but it wasn't all about just trying to rush back to the past. You kind of are taking your time, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
now that they're digitizing, there's always something new. And the other thing I want to add, you have to join not only the African American genealogy groups, but the historical societies in the county where you are. They have been a wonderful resource as well.
Boots on the ground. That's what I call boots on the ground. You have to, they're there and they know what's going on. Why are we racking our brain trying to do internet research when we could talk to people who could just tell you exactly what happened? You got to do a little bit of both. So I totally agree there. So let's do step 1, which is to review papers from mom. So what was it like to receive her paperwork? Did she give it to you before she passed and told you what was going on, or did you get it afterwards?
Well, this started in 2011 when I retired, and mom then passed in 2017. So she was happy to pass it on. She was not holding on. So I had these big sheets of microfiche papers, and what I did was I went to FedEx and found a wonderful man and put them on boards. So I had them that way. So yes, I've been trying to organize her papers since 2011. So mom's job.
I remember she was talking to me about coming over and helping her. So you still have me if you want me to come over and help you out.
Oh, well.
So basically,
hey, I'm going to take you up on that one. And I'll feed you.
Hey, I can eat. So I do remember those huge, giant census papers. Floyd used to come back from the South with those. You still have yours?
Yes, I could run and show you where I put them on the board, but I don't think
you will not do that.
No, I won't try to do that.
All right. So you took your papers from your mom and you are in the process of organizing them. One of them was to put it on board so that you can display it for your family. So I love that. Step 2 is to add a tree to Ancestry. So has that helped you out? Was that an easy thing for you to do?
Well, basically, I must confess, I didn't, back in 2011, wasn't too much training. So I kind of self-taught myself. Needs to say, having all the trainings, I've gone back and corrected some mistakes as recently as getting ready for this presentation. Because I had Hampton's 1880 census under his mother's name. I said, why I had that? So I had to go back and put it under his name and put his mom.
Has it been helpful in bringing in meeting new people who share the same lineage?
Well, we kind of, you have to give it to them in chunks, especially since we go back to 8 generations. So at family meetings and family, I will give them bits and pieces. Because being 8 generations, we belong
That's a lot.
The first set. They don't know how we're related. So the 3 lines that are active, I always try to tell them how we're related. And
okay,
goes back to Hampton and his mother Millie, but I always try to do that whenever we meet, so they'll know. And of course, encourage them to do their own lines. One line had 18 children, so I don't touch that one.
That's incredible. So having the tree on, I guess that's a nice way for those who want to know, they can go on there and they can see it.
Yes.
All right. So step 3, you said, is to then follow the paper trail. So what kind of tips do you have for people with following the paper trail after they inherit so much stuff? Where do you even start?
Well, you have to kind of just lay it out and organize it and see what you have and kind of group it. And so mom mainly had census records. She had other documents as well. And she had books. She bought books. So you got to kind of organize it. I guess the next step is kind of catalog it as I grow older and think about now, how am I going to leave this stuff in some kind of organized fashion? And or donate it, but it's not ready to be donated because it's not quite organized. Because the library in Newberry accepts these things. Mom's book is in there as well. So some of these things might go there, but that's a future thought. But you have to organize it. You have to organize by your type of filing system. Like right now, I have binders, but that stuff needs to be digitized. And it needs to be digitized, and you don't. To me, you don't need the papers when it's online. So not only ancestry. So now I'm learning the genealogical software. Tribal Pages, Family Tree, one of them. Yes.
Okay, very cool. And
Take
so
it off.
step 4 for your research, you felt, your mom, you said, did a lot of census research and she has other papers as well, but you said you've been spending your time in the Freedmen's Bureau. Why is that?
Well, I've had excellent training. Again, they left us baby boomers in the house for 3 years with a computer. And so we were able to do genealogy training. And now we don't have to go to any conferences because you can travel the country for practically free, maybe $5 or $10. And you can't even get to the airport for $5 to $10. Go to a conference. And so I've had excellent training from yourself, Shamel Jordan, Nika Sewell Smith, and Bernice Bennett, among others. And those Freedmen Bureau records, I tell everybody, take your time and go through them. I have only gone through the labor contracts, and because they really make that connection from freedom to when they stayed in the South and was sharecropping. My ancestors sharecropped with a second enslaver. So it's very important to do those free bureau records. But you have to get the training. You have to go to training and learn how to do it. They're not the easiest set.
So you were able to find some stuff in the Freedmen's Bureau for your ancestors to add to the collection that your mom hadn't done.
No,
you added that. Okay.
Now they were on Family Search. I don't know if she hadn't gotten to it or what, but some were on Family Search, and then they went to Ancestry, which is, I don't say Family Search is that difficult, but Ancestry is just a step more user friendly.
Yes, that's why they charge us.
That's right.
All right, so you researched the Freedmen's Bureau, you got more information, you transcribed the records you got. So we're going to share that because I want to get to your record. You have so many records. And then share the story, like what you're doing now. So tell me, who is this?
This is Mom back in the 80s. She went to, as I said, she was trained to go to the archives. So she went to the National Archives and then the South Carolina Archives. So that's Mom in the 80s. And that's Hampton Tribble. We can document the family back to his mother, Millie Tribble, in Newberry County, South Carolina. And that's my direct line, my great-grandmother, Fanny Tribble Glenn, who migrated to Philadelphia in 1917.
Okay, so Hampton Tribble is that, that ancestor who was both in freedom and enslaved.
Yes. So and he lived a long time, and he had several children. They call them the out children, and that's one of the ones Mom interviewed. We're from the first set. We were born, Fanny was born in 1878. He started having other children after his wife passed in 1900. So Mom interviewed Uncle Moke.
Okay.
100, so he knew his father.
How did you get this picture?
I don't know. Like the gentleman said, I hadn't heard that a lot. The pictures and that's another show.
So here's him in 1880 census. Tell us about him.
So Hampton's there with his wife, and as they just mentioned, you have to be careful. Her name was Nora. It was transcribed as Lola, and his 5 children of the first set: Stacy, George, Fanny, Israel, and James. And the border, the Satterwhites. We see the Satterwhites name on other documents as well. And these lines. And the interesting about our family, they didn't have any land, and they all came north or went further north. So
Okay. Okay. And is that the last one of the enslavers next door?
who's that? I can't see it.
Is it Elijah?
Elijah Tribble. Yes.
Okay. And that's
Yes.
in 1880.
Yes.
So we always say you got to get back to 1870. So tell us about Hampton 1870.
So in 1870, I did not have that until recently because he was not in the original census as Hamp. Under Ancestry was his actually Harry's Tribble.
Uh,
Again, the Sue Eliezer from the Genealogical Society in Dutch Fort in South Carolina. What they're doing is they're taking their books and they're digitizing them and they sell them. So they had the Newberry County, South Carolina census. So she sent that to me. Oh, Regina, he's listed under Sims Smalls. So he's not 70, he's about 21, and he's living with Sims Smalls. And you'll see his name there, Camp Tribble.
oh my goodness. So an indexing error through everything. His name was showed as Harris, but you were looking for Hamp. Okay. Spelling does not count in genealogy, and that's the creativity that Jim and Michael are always talking about. This is a great record. Talk to us about this one.
Well, again, I got that from their index book because I could not read this transcription from Ancestry, and they transcribed it all. So I could see what Hamp was probably sharecropping on Elijah Tribble's land. And you'll see the different types of crops he was sharecropping.
So this is the 1870 agricultural census for people who might not know. And this is the person showing all their stuff. You said that Hamp was on his farm as well.
Yes, you saw him still on 1880, still living next door to Elijah Tribble.
Okay.
Yes. So
this is very cool.
That he is still there.
We got 4 mules and 3 horses and 12 swine.
Yes, but this is all Elijah Tribble's. And in the words of Brian Stevenson, slavery did not end, it just evolved with the sharecropping system. He was a farmer, a laborer all his life.
So Indian corn, that was the big crop here, 300 in Indian corn.
Yes.
Silk cocoons. I wonder what that is. Michael will know. All right. I love that. I'm sorry. I get stuck. All right. And so then you talked about the Freedmen's Bureau record. So this is an 1866 Freedmen's Bureau contract. How did you find this?
Well, again, from my training. I think it may have been from you. As you're training, I'm online. I hate to say this. I said, "Oh my God, let me see if I can find him." And he popped up under Elijah Tribble, which I knew, and he popped up under his name on Ancestry, and of course, it's on Family Search as well. And that's just threw me. Here he signed in a labor contract with his mark.
And, wow.
But his son, Uncle Moke, says he could read or write, but we don't know that story, why he signed. Maybe he wasn't reading or writing at that time, but he did learn to read or write because his son said he was a Bible scholar.
So this is great. So you said also that you like to transcribe, which is a great idea. So how did you do this? Was it hard? Did it take you a lot of time?
No, actually, I got some help. I have a wonderful friend, a genealogist that has a career in law, and she transcribed it for me. And also someone at the Genealogical Society of Cleveland helped me transcribe it.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So the
And you know,
uptick
and that's
in
the other thing I want to say. It's good to have genealogy buddies. You share.
it
You
is. We
share.
shouldn't do this alone because it just makes no sense. Because
Yes,
there's a
right.
lot.
But somebody
It's a
might
lot
know
more
something
fun.
and you can support each other.
Exactly. Exactly. So you got him in the 1866 census. And so the next record you have is this one. Let me add this. Tell us about this appraisal from December 1853 yeah, tell us about this, Regina.
Well, this is what mom had. She was able to get this again, going back to Newberry. At the time, she hired one of the genealogists there, and she showed her how to do court records because back in the 80s, there wasn't all these webinars and training, except for Augs was doing at the time, what she learned from Augs. And so she went to the courthouse, and mom said that she lost it when she saw her ancestors' name in print, Millie, Hampton,
Oh,
and Patrick, and the appraisal record of what they were going to be sold for. And so her name was Glenna Brundrick, and she explained the records to mom and what it was because he died in state. And so this was the appraisal to sell. Many of these enslavers were heavily in debt, so they had to
yeah.
sell everything. And it was
So, mhm.
during the pandemic, I reread that. That's back to the title of Sprint, and I was able to recognize other names. And 3 generations later, with the naming patterns, but that's another workshop and another quick start. And it was amazing. 97
so,
enslaved Africans were sold.
so this appraisal was there was 97 Africans.
Mhm.
So who's Millie and who's Patrick to Hamp?
Millie is his mother, and Patrick is his brother.
Okay. Oh, wow. Ooh, I don't know why I got chills seeing them on here. It's not like I haven't seen people listed like this, but wow. And so here you have another estate from the estate of Charles Floyd sold to Elijah Tribble. So what are we looking at here?
And so this is another one to bring chills. A Negro girl, Millie, and 2 children. And we can assume that's Hamp and Patrick. And you can see they're sold for less than they were praised for.
So sale bill continued, Elijah Tribble. Wow. A bale of cotton. Is that cotton? A
Yes.
ball of cotton, one Negro girl, Millie, and 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
$1,600.
And mom said this was chilling to see her people on the same page as
Are one of the children, or are the 2 children Patrick and Hamp?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is chilling. It is chilling. And then you have this one from the estate of Charles Floyd, 1855. What are we looking at here?
Elijah Tribble received a deduction because he was one unsound Negro child. Because
Mm.
they could not find, and neither have I have been able to document what happened to Patrick. So Mrs. Buntrick told mom in the 80s maybe he died, and they got money back for him. So he got $95 back for him, for Patrick.
And all of these papers were within the estate records of Charles Floyd?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And this is just a snippet of it.
So your mom went down, she went down to Newberry to get this stuff?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it interviewed the elders, Uncle Moat, that was still there. That was Hamp's son. He was born in 1900.
So she interviewed the son of
Hamp.
an enslaved person. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so that's been my other project, to digitize these tapes. That's the other thing I have in the house, the cassette tapes.
So you have tapes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we got to find somewhere for you. Are they, what kind, are they like in their cassettes? All right, we're going to have to ask Michael what you do with the cassettes. Michael, stay tuned. So Regina, that was absolutely wonderful. I cannot believe that we made it through those slides. Is there anything else that you found in your research about ham? Let
I
me
just wanted to show
settle
you
you.
the census, what they did in the Little Historical Society. They reprinted them and they sell them to the members. So that's how I
And
was
can
able
you
to
hold it up
find.
at the bottom? It says, so it's not only just the population, it's mortality, agricultural, and the census. That's very nice.
Mhm.
That's very
That's where I was
nice.
first able to see. And actually, if you ask me, they did a better job of indexing and ancestry. You
And
know,
sometimes it's just really because I always wondered, are those books still useful today? And I would agree. You had a great example where all the indexes let you down, except for the one that the county actually did in a book.
absolutely. Because they're the ones
So
that actually wrote down the crops and everything. And somebody took the time to type it and read it. And
fan. Fantastic, Regina. Let's go through your steps for inheriting Hampton. It's not a sprint. Step one, you want to review the papers that you received from your ancestors. Step two is to add a tree to ancestry. Step three, follow the paper trail. Step four, research the Freedmen's Bureau. Step five, transcribe records. And step six, share the story. So, Regina, how are you sharing the story? I did not ask you that. How are you sharing the story with your family?
well, like here today, I don't consider myself a professional, but and I'm not finished, but I feel like you always should tell your story to encourage other people. And of course, I tell my family whenever they are. You know, I always tell my daughter she's very organized. Okay, make sure you have some time for mom on your schedule. And I tell them the interesting stories, you know, to grab their attention. You know,
Yes.
the bad seeds of the family, as they would say.
Oh, they love that. They love the debauchery and the criminals. That's their favorite part.
Yes.
Um, Rosalind Green says that the local people are more familiar with the surnames than non-local people. So that's why you got to have boots on the ground. Thank you, Rosalind.
And
And so I
Dr.
want to
Shelley
ask,
Murphy is on there. And she's
yes,
Miss
hello.
Bureau too.
Hello, Dr. Shelley. She is definitely a lover of the Freedmen's Bureau and a special guest alumni. So
Yes.
let's bring Jim and Michael back on because I would really like to hear what you should do with the tapes. Michael.
Well, transcribe. I'm assuming you've already transcribed them, but have them converted to digital. There's a variety of ways you can do that. I've got some that I need to do that with because I'm afraid they're going to disintegrate. And then, because preserving their voice, I think, is key. It's great to get the text, but preserving
Yeah.
their voice, because you hear things in that you don't when you read it, obviously.
Yes, I have
So
digitized them.
Good.
And the
That's good.
next, how do I share them? You know, they're just sitting on the my computer and those uh, a flash drive there. So how do I get them off the computer? I got them. I moved them to the cloud, and
okay, so they're not
Some of those,
cassettes, they're digital.
right, some of those you could. I think you can upload those to Family Search. I mean, you can do text and pictures. You might want to see if you can do audio. I've not done that, but that might be another, more long-term preservation option with the audio is to see if Family Search will let you do that. There are some websites that will let you store things a long time. You pay a fee, and in theory, they'll be in business forever. But I'm a little
I've
skeptical of
seen
that.
them, but you know, I'm a little scared of them because just what you said. Will they be in business?
Yeah.
And will I still own them?
That's a separate issue too. Right? Exactly.
And will you be searching Chat GPT and getting your information that you gave in those tapes? All right, everyone. Thank you so much, Regina. Fantastic. We appreciate you being here. Everyone, thank you for watching. Take care.
Bye bye.